Hey folks, this is Jake here at Canadian Cutting Edge. Today we're taking a look at the 1158 by Sanrenmu. This is a folding knife with budget prices, 8CR13 MOV. Right now when I'm recording this, the knife is $30 on AliExpress at one store. Another store has a little bit more. I think that $30 might be a sale that's just ending, unfortunately, so it might be over by the time this gets published. I hope I can get it out on time, but I'm not sure. In any case, we've got a fairly thin kind of style knife, a knife that's probably designed more for piercing than anything else, but it does slice quite well. It's got a high flat saber grind, so some might call it a flat grind, but really it's a saber grind. And thumb studs, washers that are very smooth, and a lot of good things to say about this knife and a couple of negatives, just like every knife that comes around. But, you know, some have more negatives than others and some have more positives than others. So we're going to take a good look at this guy to see where this guy falls out. Keep watching. The first thing that I want to let you know is this knife has a sibling, a fixed blade, that I already reviewed. This knife right here. We've got a very similar blade style, a very similar handle style, except for the sizes are slightly different, but basically very, very similar, and they are referencing one another in a lot of different ways here. This is the S758, and this is the 1158. So the 58 on the end, the same basic blade shape, the same handle shape, let you know that these guys are kissing cousins. I do have the video about this knife out, and so if you're interested, there's going to be a link right at the very end of this video to talk about this knife. Let's get the review going with this knife right here. Let's zoom in a little closer. So this knife has got a lot of good things going for it. I like the blade shape. I really like the handle shape. Fits in the hand very comfortably, almost any kind of grip that you can imagine. You've got a nice lock release here. It's got a little bit of jimping on the side. It's kind of unique how they made that. You don't see it terribly often done that way. See, the jimping is just on one side of that thumb tab, but your thumb gets a good tactile reference point there. You know exactly where your thumb is without looking when it's time to go to close the knife, and it just works very, very well every time that you need to do that. So that's a very good thing. I like that. You've got an open pillar construction. You can see the skeletonizing in there. I'll show you the inside of the knife in just a little while. You've got a big pivot here to hold it together, one screw here, but that's not actually screwed in. Actually, I shouldn't say screw. This just functions, this back here functions as a spacer. It only screws together here, as you can see there and there at the pivot. But it's a nice, spacer that we've got there. Great big stop pin. For the size of the knife, it's a nice big stop pin, I should say. You've got a thumb riser, so it goes up on the knife there. Good jimping on there, really good engagement. And after the thumb riser, there's a bit of a drop, but then we've got a drop point coming down at a very, very slight radius. A nice swedge up top here, nice high flat saber grind, really big belly, and the belly goes to about here before it goes flat, and then we've got a nice straight edge right there. And we've got a nice little cutout here of a bit of a sharpener's choil. The plunge is a slow plunge, and it meets up just where the plunge ends is where your cutting edge begins. And that makes it nice and easy to sharpen this knife when that time comes. There's not a lot of printing on the knife, just like a lot of the recent Sanrenmu knives. You have the character logo on that side, and then on this side, it says 1158, and then the year stamp there. This one was made in 2018 in July, and there it says 8CR13 MOV, and that's all you've got written all over this knife. And the cutting edge is done very, very well. They did a great job with all the grinds, the main bevel, the swedge. The grind for the cutting edge is done very well. And then when you look at the handle here, we've got a nice long handle. What's this? Well, this is a little bit of a lock. What we have is a sliding mechanism right here, and it slides this tab forward or back to get out of the way. When it's forward, that little tab right there gets in the way so that you can't release the liner lock. You can move it up to there, and that's as far as it goes, but that's not far enough to give it freedom to close the knife. And then you slide this tab back, and you'll notice that that little tab moved, and then now it's far enough back. If you don't move it quite far enough, you can hear it engage ever so slightly with the lock, but yeah, not a problem at all. And then you can close the knife. Blade centering is pretty much perfect. A lot of good things about this knife. On the G10 milling that they did, you've got an edge that's chamfered by steps right here. Same thing up there. And then we've got 3 little hash lines right here. Not hash lines, but 3 little milled out sections there. And then sort of a triangle section milled out for your thumb to go in to hit that thumb stud and make the knife go flying out. They didn't prepare anything on this side for a thumb stud, so the thumb stud is right side only. I think that's because, they decided to put in this tab that's raised up for your release for your, the liner lock. That could be it. I think they could have made this in such a way that there could still be the thumb stud here and still be available for left-handers to open the knife. Unfortunately, that option's not there. The way it's put in here, I would not take this out and try to put it in the other side. If I had a really small tap set, I might do that, because I could always put in a different thumb stud. But any guy at home, if you're just your average knife collector type guy, I wouldn't try moving that thumb stud over to that side. It's probably going to fail if you try that. And the only thing we haven't talked about yet now is the pocket clip. So the pocket clip here is on this side. It's put on with that main body screw to hold it together. You've got about 1.5 centimeters, about 1/2 inch of the pocket of the knife handle sticking out of the pocket when you're holding it that way. The clip just rises a little bit, ever so slightly. On pants that have a really thick pocket seam, it might catch every once in a while. I noticed it on one pair of my jeans. Let's show you what it's like on our sample tester here. So it goes down, and as you can see right away, it went over that seam. So it's not a problem on most jeans. It's just sometimes if this is really thick on a pair of jeans, you might have to pay close attention as you're putting that on. But as you can see, there's not much sticking out of the pocket. So that's how the pocket clip works. It's actually got a nice texture on the side, very comfortable in hand, as I mentioned before. Your main kind of grip, quite comfortable. A reverse grip, quite comfortable. And you've got such a long handle. My hands are almost on the extra large range. Sometimes I have to buy extra large gloves. Sometimes I have to buy large gloves. And look at all this knife. If I put my finger in this little bit of a choil here and not up high on there, just right in there, I still have a bunch of handle left over. So guys with extra large hands are still going to find this knife long enough for your hand. You just might find it a little bit small because it's not huge this way, or the thickness, it's just not huge that way. But it's a nice, good size knife with a good ratio between the blade length and the handle length. And I think now is a perfect time for me to show you a couple still pictures of the washers and the skeletonizing everything that's inside. So there you go. I think it's a great, the design for the construction of the knife is really good. I don't mind washers at all. We need more washers in our world of knives. Ball bearings are okay. They can be good. They can be great. But there's sometimes when you just want to have washers instead. Thankfully, this knife gives another opportunity for that, for a guy who wants, or gal who wants a knife with washers. The pins are fixed pins. They don't slide freely, so you don't need to have a clamp or anything fancy. T8 screws to take this knife apart and put it back together. Builds very, very well. So now let's talk about all the different dimensions and parts and everything. Well, what do we have for weight? It's 130 grams, 4.6 ounces. Not bad at all. The cutting edge from the factory, cut with a pressure of 150 grams. Quite good. From Sanrenmu, I've seen a few better than that, and I've seen a couple a little bit worse than that. So 150 is not bad. The dimensions now. The cutting edge, so tip of the blade to the sharpener's trail right here, 9.37 centimeters, 3.69 inches. The blade length, so from the tip to the first spot on the G10 here, 9.27 centimeters, which equals 3.65 inches. So just slightly less than the cutting edge length. Not bad at all. The blade thickness, 3.4 millimeters. That's 0.134 inches. So good blade stock here. And it keeps its thickness all the way until you've got just over an inch left, and then it starts to taper down. The last inch and an eighth or inch and a quarter is where it starts to taper down. And it has a fairly durable tip right there. The blade depth, and I measured it after the thumb riser comes back down, so where this swedge is, 2.39 centimeters, 0.941 inches. So it's less than an inch. And then you've got a nice long blade, great for puncturing. The thickness of the edge of the knife, right behind the final grind right here, is 0.57 millimeters. That's 0.0225 inches. Tiny bit thicker than I like it to be, but not bad at all. This knife has loads of life on it. The grind angle from the factory, 19.2 degrees on this side, the side with the working numbers, and the show side was 20.9 degrees. That is about 1.7 degrees difference between the two. Not bad at all. And I've sharpened it up since then because I use this knife an awful lot. I've had this knife now for, I think, about 4 weeks, and I've carried it a lot, a lot. And I was just waiting for the perfect time to make this video, and I should have done it a little bit sooner. Now that I've noticed that there's a sale that's just ending. Oh boy, that really bugs me. Because I like giving you guys the best deals that I can find. Or not giving you, I like letting you know about the best deals that I can find. The only place I found this was AliExpress. And so I've got links for AliExpress down below. I don't get a commission from them at all. But if you let them know that I sent you Jake from Canadian Cutting Edge, then they might give me a deal in the future with some knives. Who knows? So that's the blade stuff. The handle dimensions, handle length is 12.66 centimeters, 4.99 inches, so 5-inch handle, and 3 and almost 3/4 inch blade. So that's not bad. A good ratio between the two. Not bad at all. The grip area in here is 10.16 centimeters, about 4 inches. The handle thickness, not counting the pocket clip or this little bump from the locking switch, 1.35 centimeters, 0.532 inches. So perfect thickness, just like almost most knives are right around half an inch. The handle depth, that's this dimension right here. It's biggest right here at this transition spot, 2.67 centimeters, 1.05 inches. And when you close the knife, it's a bit bigger right here. And so actually right here. And so I measured it right here, 2.9 centimeters, 1.14 inches. But it's got no big protrusions like flipper tabs and stuff. And, you know, I like having thumb stud knives sometimes instead of always flipper knives. Oh, flipper knives, flipper. The complete length of this knife with the blade deployed is 20.95 centimeters, 5 5/8 inches long. So not bad at all. It feels really, really good in hand. The balance point is right there. If they would have done just a little bit more skeletonizing, the balance point could have been brought to that perfect spot right there. But that's a very tiny difference. Not bad at all. I didn't have a problem with this switch. I didn't have a problem accidentally engaging it while using it. I don't generally like these kind of locks, but this one's not bad. Going over the pros and cons and the like right now. So the price of this knife, I forgot to cover that part, $30 US. That's just over 40 Canadian, almost 27 euros, almost 23 British pounds. But those prices are variable, changing with the rates of currency, exchange rates changing every day, right? Pros and cons again. Thumb stud is done very well, but con, it's not on the left side. So it's a good thumb stud, but it's a bad thumb stud at the same time. So you got both of those. The handle shape and the blade shape, they complement each other. Good balance, good design work. So I like that. The pocket clip is good, but I really wish they would have made it right and left. It wouldn't have been hard to do that. You know, if they would have done that with a thumb stud and a pocket clip, this would be a fairly ambidextrous knife. You know, as ambidextrous as you can get on a liner lock without changing the side that the liner lock's on. They could have done that. I really wish they would have. But the fit and finish is good. It's light for its size. Fixed pivot pins. They don't rotate and spin on you freely. That's good. Good action. Good lockup. You know, no blade play, side to side, up and down. You know, you could make it have blade play. Oh, I did show you a picture of it, but maybe you didn't notice when I showed you the still pictures. The screw here's got a little silicone washer behind it to help it from backing out from friction when you're using the knife. You know, from the thwack. You know, sometimes on some knives the pivot screw loosens up on its own, but they made provision for that. Sanrenmu has been doing that for quite a while on a lot of screws. It's got good feeling in hand, good response, good so many things. And the cons, like I said, thumb stud, pocket clip, works great. I just wish it was also on the other side. So there's not much wrong with this knife. The price is, you know, right in the middle of a budget price at $30. It looks good. It feels good. It's Canada legal, like everywhere. It's a nice knife. If you're looking for a knife like this, I can't guarantee that. If you're in Canada, I can't guarantee that CBSA wouldn't take it. But I think it passes all of their tests, and I think you should have no problem getting this knife. But, you know, who knows? They've got their own way of thinking there at CBSA. So I won't guarantee it, but I highly recommend that you can get this knife, and it should get to you safely. So thank you so much for watching my video. This is the last video for February. Hopefully I publish it in February. So very soon, in a couple of days, I'll do my draw for my Patreon supporters to see which one of you guys wins one of my knives from February 2019. Any knife that I reviewed this month will be, I think, almost any knife. We'll see. One of you guys of my Patreon supporters, and they're only guys right now, but thank you very much. Only one of you guys will have the chance to pick a knife that you've won. But thank you so much for your support through Patreon. I really, really appreciate it. It does help this channel exist. Simply, it really does. So I thank you for your support. If you want to become a Patreon supporter, you'll want to get in before the end of February in your time zone. Any $2 sponsor or more, you know, your name will be put into that draw to win a knife every single month. And so that's kind of cool. So what do you think of this knife? Let me know in the comment section below. And remember, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.